What is happening, football fans? Welcome back to our second playoff edition of Gridiron Glory. I'm Josh Huntsberger. Tonight marked the start of postseason play over in West Virginia and week 2 here in Ohio. Fortunately for our viewers, 4 of our 5 Ohio teams were able to advance last week, leaving us with plenty of action. To see if anyone was able to move on to their regional final, let's get going. The Wahama White Falcons were able to achieve perfection again last week with their win over Buffalo. Ed Cromley and his boys are now riding a 30-game regular season win streak and have swept the TVC-Hocking every year since joining. But tonight marked the start of playoffs for the Red and White, and after reaching the championship 2 years ago, followed by the Final Four last year, this team is ready to get to the title. And who better to start their journey against than the same opponent they had in Week 11? We now welcome our TVC-Hocking reporter, Kyle Brackey, to the desk, who was at the game tonight. And Kyle, we saw the same matchup last week, and Wahama didn't have any troubles with Buffalo.
Well, that's right, Josh. These two teams met last week to end the regular season, and it was the Wahama White Falcons coming away with a 41-13 victory. But this week, it was Buffalo who was looking to flip the script in the game that mattered most Friday night in Point Pleasant. Early on, Wahama getting fired up, and they'd keep that momentum going into the first play. Buffalo quarterback Levi Gordon trying to get the pitch play going, but it's no good. The Bison would recover. That led to a Buffalo punt, and on the ensuing Wahama drive, it's Crandall Neal with an 8-yard rush to get the momentum rolling, and then Kane Rouse with one of his many plays on the night. He's going to break a tackle and rumble 20 yards to the end zone. That put the White Falcons up 7-0 early. And on the ensuing Buffalo drive, Levi Gordon trying to get something going. He's going to be swarmed by Colton Neal and brought down for the sack. And then it's Kane Rouse once again doing his thing, breaking 2 tackles. He's going to come right into our living room on this 24-yard gain down the right sideline. And 3 plays later, it was Zach Wamsley doing the rest for the White Falcons. He's going to go in from 9 yards out. That put them on top 14-0. Coach Cromley loves the execution and quite frankly loves Kane Rouse. On this next play, he's going to take the ball down the right sideline, hit every button that you can hit on an Xbox controller, and he's going to gain 35 yards for the White Falcons. That led to another Wamsley touchdown, put the White Falcons on top 20-0, and then Levi Gordon for Buffalo trying to get something going, rolls to his left. He's going to fire down the middle of the field. He has Gabe Garrison for 31 yards, but that drive would once again stall, and right before halftime, Wahama quarterback Trenton Gibbs, he's going to step up in the pocket, fire down the middle of the field, and guess who he has? Kane Rouse.
Who else?
Down to the 3-yard line, and 2 plays later, it's Rouse doing it himself again, this time from 2 yards out. That put him on top 26-0. Rouse loves the fans there at Wahama. They go on to win 38-0 and advance to the second round of the playoffs.
Wow, huge shutout in the playoffs, blowing out Buffalo again. And I got to say, Kane Rouse loves playing against this Buffalo defense.
Oh, he does. A week ago, 2 touchdowns, 1 kickoff return, 1 rushing touchdown. This week, another 2 rushing touchdowns, had a big punt return and another big reception for the White Falcons.
All right, now Wahama is moving forward. What's their playoff picture looking like next week?
Well, they're going to play the winner of Greenbrier West and Meadowbridge. Greenbrier West comes in at 9-1, having won 6 in a row, but their one loss on the year came to this Buffalo squad the White Falcons have just beaten twice in a row.
All right, well, they got the first win of the playoffs tonight. Is it too early to start talking state title?
No, I don't think it is. With this Wahama team, it's so talented with Gibbs, Roush, with Wamsley, and they have a great defense to go along with that. This very well could be the year that they get the state title.
All right, well, you heard it from him. I know the White Falcon fans are liking the sounds of that. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Now, another West Virginia team that was faced with a familiar opponent in round 1 was Williamstown. After sneaking in the playoffs at the number 15 slot in single-A ball, the Yellow Jackets were stuck with the draw of Magnolia for round 1. The last time these teams met was 10 weeks ago when Magnolia came out on top with a 24-7 victory. We now welcome Ian McConville and Seth Austin to talk a little bit about that game as well as tonight's matchup. Fellas, what went down all the way back in week 2?
Well, you're right, Josh. The last time these two teams met, Magnolia did get that 24-7 win in week 2. The Blue Eagles had a 17-0 lead at halftime. Williamstown didn't manage a first down until midway through the second quarter. Stephen Rogalski was really a problem spot for Magnolia in that for Williamstown's defense in that first game. He had 9 receptions for 175 yards. David Hastings did get kind of the bright spot going for Williamstown offensively. He had 5 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. But since then, Williamstown has been rolling. They won their last 3 games by a combined 86-23. But Seth, Magnolia has been pretty hot themselves.
Yeah, not so fast with Williamstown. Magnolia lost their opening game and then since then took it out on Williamstown in the second week. Then they've rolled ever since going into the playoffs. They have not lost. And you mentioned the guy, Stephen Rogalski. This guy could ball. Took the opening kickoff 99 yards to the house, added a receiving touchdown later in the game, 140 all-purpose yards. The woes on defense for Williamstown didn't get any easier. Drew Keller, 201 yards on the ground. He had a touchdown, but it wasn't just a defensive struggle for the Yellow Jackets. They couldn't get anything going on offense. Their first down came with less than 30 seconds left in the first half, and they were outgained by this Blue Eagle team, 324-190. Not how Williamstown wanted to end their season.
Definitely not. They finished their season at 6-5, which compared to previous years, it's kind of a disappointing year for Williamstown. They averaged 24.8 points per game in the regular season, which is kind of good, but their losses, they came big. They lost big to Newark County, they lost big to St. Mary's. But this is a young team. They're going to gain a lot of experience from this. You can expect Williamstown to be a team that's going to compete for a number of years down the road for perennial state titles in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah, Josh, like we said, not the way they wanted to end it quite tonight. But hey, they showed some bright spots early on in the game. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get it going. Too much athleticism on this Magnolia team. Like we said, all along the board, it was Keller, it was Hannah, it was Rogalski. This team just came out firing. They were 2 of the best teams, the second best team in that Class A. So it's not really good, it's not how Williamstown wanted to end. But in the Wild and Wonderful State was great this year, Josh. We're looking for just as good as a year next year.
All right, I know we all are, and pretty impressive. Williamstown ended up finding the playoffs at all. Thanks a lot, guys. Now, if you'd like to keep up with Williamstown, see how their season went, or any of our other teams throughout the week, check us out on social media. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Glory for score updates, pictures, and more. You can also follow my host Twitter account at gghost_JAUSH. There you can get my opinions on weekly matchups, ask any questions, and let me know who you think will win each game of the week. Now, before we get to Tri-Valley's matchup against New Albany, we'd like to shed a little light on their beast of a running back, Austin Jones. A possible Player of the Year snub from last season, Jones has put up such great numbers that head coach Justin Buttermore has said that he may go down as the best player in Tri-Valley history.
Austin Jones has all the credentials to be considered Player of the Year worthy. Tri-Valley's starting running back and defensive back is the top threat on both sides of the ball. In the regular season, Jones racked up 1,459 yards on 157 rushes, averaging over 9 yards per carry. The Scotties' versatile weapon also had 17 receptions for 296 yards, averaging over 17 yards per catch. Jones accumulated 29 total touchdowns on the year, accounting for 36% of Tri-Valley's scoring. Not bad for a 5'10" back who is playing through an injury that required excess fluid to be drawn from his knee on a weekly basis. Jones was also a reliable force when trusted with the ball, fumbling on fewer than 2% of his touches. The multi-talented Jones started on defense as well, leading the team in tackles with 44 and in sacks with 4. Jones's resolve, as well as his exceptional raw talent, have allowed this dynamic athlete to lead Tri-Valley to the best regular season in school history and put the Scotties in position for a run at the Division II state title.
Now, we'll get to the results from Jones' game here in a little bit, but to vote for him or any of our other finalists, send an email to playeroftheyear@woub.org. Each person gets 1 vote, and all you need to do is send the player's name. We're on our way to receiving the most votes we've ever had for a Player of the Year race, so keep them coming before the voting ends this Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Now, while we're talking about Player of the Year candidates, let's go ahead and move over to the SCOAL. 3 of the last 4 Player of the Year winners have come from that league. And although the league saw another down year, Wade Jarrell put Gallia Academy back on the map. After leading the Blue Devils to their first playoff victory since 2006, Jarrell has made it clear that he wants to keep this title within the SCOAL family.
Why should Wade Jarrell win Player of the Year? One word: toughness. It's not always the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. And this kid has all the toughness and more that a team leader should possess. The dual-threat quarterback completed 57% of his passes for 1,176 yards, 12 touchdowns, and averaging an impressive 15 yards per completion. On the ground, he isn't too shabby either, with just over 1,000 yards and 13 scores while averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. The Blue Devils QB can do it all. What signifies how tough Wade is the most is his yards after contact. Seemingly every big run that Gerald chalks up, he is escaping tackles left and right. The man runs like the game is on the line every single snap. He has helped lead the Blue Devils into the school record books with records including most points in a season, most rushing yards, and most total yards in a season. Whether you need a big first down run or an air general to march his troops down the field, Wade Gerald is your guy. A competitor, an athlete, and possibly Gridiron Glory's Player of the Year.
While we have Gerald on the mind, let's go ahead and start talking about how Region 12 is shaping up. Both Athens and Gallia Academy grabbed wins last week, along with Springfield, Shawnee, and Thurgood Marshall. If both the Bulldogs and Blue Devils could pull off a win on Saturday, we would see one epic rematch in their regional final. We now welcome Pat Moore and Graham Fugazi to preview Saturday's matchups. Fellas, do you think there's a chance that we will see that rematch next week?
Well, I mean, Josh, as much as we'd love to see a rematch between these two teams, first, both have the very tough matchup Saturday night. And Graham, if the Blue Devils and the Bulldogs, if they want to advance, they're going to have to bring their A game.
Yeah, Pat, both these teams are going to have to play outstanding football for 60 minutes, and it's going to have to start with the number 3 Athens Bulldogs.
Yeah, Athens, the number 3 seed in the region. They're going to be taking on number 7 seeded Shawnee, the Braves. They're there because they beat Kettering Alter in the first round last week by a score of 42-34. And Shawnee, they've been here before. I mean, they went to the state semifinals in Division III, so they won Region 12 last season, and you better believe they are going to want to win it again this season. And for Athens, it all starts, the dynamic play of Joe Burrow at quarterback, but also these seniors, the savvy receivers and Skylar Schwartzel, Tyler McIntosh. You bet right there, Tyler, he's making a nice play there in last week's matchup. You better believe they're going to want to keep on winning. They don't want this game to be their last. They're going to want to keep on rolling, sooner, closer and closer to that state title. And now, Graham, the number 4 Gallia Academy in the region, 4th seeded, they got the tough matchup of the top seeded Thurgood Marshall Cougars, who have been putting up a healthy amount of points this season.
Absolutely, Pat. I mean, this Thurgood Marshall team, they have the best offense that Gallia Academy's seen since they played Athens in Week 1. This 10-1 team has an explosive offense with 2 running backs that averaged and scored 53 touchdowns on the ground and rushed for 3,500 yards this season. So that's with 2 guys in the backfield. Gallia Academy's going to have to do a great job of keeping enough guys in the box to contain, but also keep guys back so that they don't have to chase. And now, offensively, Wade Gerald, Player of the Year finalist, we know about him. He's going to have to play his best game of the season if he wants to beat this Thurgood Marshall team. Head coach Mike Eddy said he hasn't seen Thurgood Marshall's punting unit yet in film. So you have to look at what they're going to have to do offensively. They're going to have to go for it 4th and 1, 4th and 2, keep drives alive, and what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to keep their offense on the field. They need to keep Thurgood Marshall's offense off the field if they want to keep extending these plays. He said 14 points is not going to cut it. They won't even get out of the first quarter if that happens. He said 40 points is where he wants to see this team. He said that if you like offense in this game, this is what you're going to get because he thinks this game is going to be a shootout from the get-go. And with those players, they're going to have to contain those guys. Cody Clegg, Ty Warnemont, Cody Russell, all those guys are going to have to play fantastic. 3 of those guys had over 10 total touchdowns. Ty Warnemont had 7. So with all these players, everything's there. The balance is there for this Gallia Academy team. It just all has to come together in this matchup, and they're going to have to get the W if they can play their best game of the season.
Wow, lots of points looks like is going to be on the board tomorrow night. And Josh, we're crossing our fingers for this next week's matchup for the regional finals. But all we can do right now is wait and watch and see where it goes.
Hey, I'm waiting for that one too, buddy. And hopefully we see another shootout like we did in Week 1. Thanks a lot, fellas. Now, thanks to our TVC-Hocking reporter, Keith Turner, we can't seem to talk about number 4 from the Trimble Tomcats without calling him Connor Stan the Man Stanley. From the Week 1 victory against rival Nelsonville York to just the 3rd playoff win in school history last week, Stanley has been nothing short of the man for the Tomcats.
Determination, domination, drive. All words used to describe Player of the Year candidate and junior quarterback Connor Stanley's impact on the game. Starting off with his determination, Stanley is the force behind this Tomcat offense, leading them to 2nd place in the TVC-Hocking with a 10-1 record just behind Wahama. This team also received a playoff berth. Connor and the Tomcats are more impressively tied with the White Falcons for most points in the league, with 440. That's 40 points per game. Stanley is the definition of a dual-threat quarterback, dominating both passing and rushing stats for the Tomcats, both numbers in quadruple digits. He has 1,245 passing yards for 17 touchdowns, connecting on 75 passes for a nearly 60% completion rate. Did I mention he's only a junior? That's not even where Stanley is most comfortable. His speed accounts for 15 touchdowns from 1,014 rushing yards with 181 carries. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Connor Stanley is living proof of this and is exactly why he's a Gridiron Glory Player of the Year finalist.
Again, you can vote for Stanley or any of our finalists by sending an email to playeroftheyear@woub.org. Each person gets one vote, and all you need to do is send the player's name. We will stop allowing votes this Tuesday at 11:59 p.m., so keep them coming, everybody. This year's Trimble Tomcats are trying to become the first team in school history to reach the third round of the postseason. A huge reason for the Tomcats' success has been their defense. They pitched a whopping 6 straight shutouts earlier in the year and have allowed just 20 points since week 3. Tonight, they welcomed a Newark Catholic squad who is averaging 47 points over the past 2 weeks. A high-powered offense against one of the best defenses around made this one an obvious choice for our game of the week. We now welcome our TVC-Hocking reporter Mike Bunt to the desk. Talk a little bit about Trimble's matchup tonight. Mike, there's so much riding on this game for the Tomcats.
Yeah, there really is a lot riding on this game for the Tomcats. A trip to the regional finals for the first time ever was on the line. And what a better opponent than Newark Catholic, a team that beat them in their only prior matchup in the playoffs against one another.
Yeah, they have a lot of history with Newark Catholic, and pretty similar score last time, right?
Yeah, last time they played, it was a 21-14 final. And coming into tonight's contest versus Newark Catholic, Trimble is trying to make school history. They're trying to make the regional finals for the first time ever. And standing in their way was a Green Wave squad that beat the Tomcats in their only other playoff meeting, 21-14 back in 1980. And we look at the Trimble Tomcats early on. They're ready for this game. A huge contingent of Trimble fans made the hour drive to Sheridan today to see their Tomcats play. And Connor Stanley gets it started well with a 33-yard run on their first drive of the game. Stanley, the mobile quarterback that we know, had 42 rushes today. Over 150 yards rushing was key for this offense. Gets a touchdown on their first drive. 6-0 Trimble out early as they got off to a nice start in this contest. However, here Stanley gets sacked by Patrick Olam, which would then eventually force Trimble to punt the ball. And here on the punt, Mike Lohr blocks it. Aaron Jordan picks it up. Newark Catholic ties the game at 6-6 in the second quarter as they end up making their first points of the game on special teams. And here Stanley gets another critical mistake. He fumbles the ball, but Newark Catholic then recovers it. Chase Crouch, the passing quarterback for Newark Catholic, finds Ryan Fitzgerald for a 33-yard touchdown pass. Newark Catholic goes up 12-6 in the second quarter. We go later in the half. It looks like Trimble's going to try to score right before the half is getting over. Stanley finds Austin Downs for a 26-yard pass with 30 seconds left in the half. But however, Stanley gets intercepted in the end zone with 13 seconds left in the half by Anthony Wing. You think the half is now over? Nope, it's not. Newark Catholic decides we're going to try to go for a big play. Crouch finds Jordan for a 44-yard pass. Looks like he's out of bounds, clearly out of bounds, but the refs rule him in. And then we have the craziest play of the entire season right here. Crouch finds Kevin Bourne. Looks like he's going to make a couple moves, try to lateral it. He fumbles it right here. And then this is where the craziness ensues. Everybody starts touching the ball. Everybody's fumbling it. And then out of nowhere, Wyatt Deke gets it. And he's going to take it all the way for a touchdown right before the half ends. Trimble's in the lead, 13-12. Nobody saw that coming here. But unfortunately for Trimble, Chase Crouch gets the offense going for Newark Catholic to start the third quarter. He finds Kevin Bourne here for a 25-yard pass that gets Newark Catholic down to the 21-yard line. And then eventually on a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, Newark Catholic cashes it in. They go up 20-13 and end up going on winning by that score.
Wow, tough break for Trimble. I know the Gloucester family out there was really wanting them to move to that regional final. But, you know, they played pretty well tonight against a great Newark Catholic team. And the thing that went bad tonight for Trimble, besides that fumble, none of the big plays went their way, Mike.
Yeah, outside of the one big fumble recovery touchdown that Trimble had to end the half, things really just didn't go their way when it came to big plays. Trimble had 2 punts blocked. Stanley had 2 interceptions. You saw the fumble that he had. They had a great effort. It just seemed that every play went against them. And then late in the fourth quarter, on a 4th and 1, with Trimble driving all the way down to Newark Catholic 5-yard line, they failed to convert, and then Newark Catholic would end up running out the clock as they went on to win the game.
Okay, you know, I think though Trimble, they can all those fans out there, they can really take a lot away from this season. They, 10-2 on the year, and only losses coming to Wahama and Newark Catholic. I mean, they don't got to hang their heads about this one.
Yeah, Trimble fans should be very excited about how they ended up playing this year. If anything, they proved that they were a very legit team all season long. People wanted to see how they would do against playoff caliber teams, and I think we saw once it came during the playoff season that they were more than legit. Holding Newark Catholic to only 20 points and then beating a Colonel Crawford team 41-6, that was unbelievable efforts, and they really showed that they were one of the best teams in Division 6 in the region that they played in.
All right, talk a little bit more about the season in general, what went so well for them along the way, and do you think they can repeat and go back to the playoffs again?
Well, what went well for Trimble this year was they just had an amazing defense. Holding teams under 5 points a game, that is truly incredible. They only had 6 seniors on the squad, and they returned their quarterback, Connor Stanley. Things are looking up for Trimble, and they should continue to be very successful going into next season.
All right, well, before we let you go, I want to get your spiel on Connor the man Stanley. How has he been so important to this team? What makes him such a great football player?
Well, Stanley's just such a great runner. He finds a way to make plays with his legs. He finds the holes, and he's just a leader. He's one of those guys where you know when you have him at quarterback that your team is in a good position to win, and that's why Trimble was such a successful team this year.
All right, well, tough loss for Trimble, but as this guy just got done saying, they have nothing to hang their heads about. Thanks a lot, Mike. Now, last week, Tri-Valley was faced with some... Actually, you know what? If you want to check out any of our highlights, go to our website at woub.org/gridiron. There you can find plenty of stuff. You can check out the Gallia Academy and Athens games from tomorrow night, and you can check out final standings, playoff progress, and previews of our Player of the Year finalists. Now let's get to Tri-Valley. Last week, Tri-Valley was faced with the same round 1 matchup they had the year before when they took on Tecumseh. While Jones and the rest of the Scotties were taking care of business as usual, New Albany was taking care of Beechcroft. So tonight, the Scotties faced the same round 2 opponent that they saw in 2011. And after beating the Eagles 24-7 a year ago, this game had more on the line than just a regional final berth. We now welcome our MVL reporter, Morgan Overby, to the side set. Morgan, Tri-Valley had the high seed going into this game, but a lot of people would say New Albany might have had the edge.
Yeah, New Albany definitely had the edge in this game because, Tri-Valley had won the last 2 games in the playoffs, and then they came into this game, they were a little fired up, but they stayed strong, and that was the case. It was back and forth right from the beginning. Tri-Valley, went down the field. They scored early on and took the lead, but then it just was back and forth the rest of the game. And what really Tri-Valley struggled with was the big plays. For an explosive team they have been, Tri-Valley just couldn't stop the big plays. New Albany. They had 6 touchdowns. They had 1 kickoff return touchdown, and 5 other touchdowns were from 3 plays or less. They just pushed it up the field all night, and Tri-Valley just couldn't, they couldn't stop it. Their defense just wasn't up to par as it had been the rest of the season. So, it's a disappointing end for a group of seniors that, they went undefeated. They won the MVL, so it was a disappointing end, but. They can't hang their heads because they had a really great season, Josh.
No, I totally agree with you. And sorry, everybody, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We had somebody live tonight, but can't bring you the highlights, so sorry about that. But Morgan, final score tonight, 42-35. So not only do they lose, but they lose in heartbreaking fashion.
Yeah, with that 1 touchdown, they had the chance to come back at the end, being down by that 1 touchdown. But like I said, New Albany's defense was stifling. They just put on the pressure at the end, and ultimately it was just too much for Tri-Valley to handle. So it's really disappointing.
All right, well, we've been talking about this group of seniors for a while. Nathan Strzok, Austin Jones, just to name a few. How are they going to bounce back next year after losing so many great playmakers?
You know, Josh, New Albany always, or excuse me, not New Albany, Tri-Valley always does well. We've seen them do well with Nathan Strzok and Austin Jones, but I think these younger players they continue to grow, and they have great
a lot of chemistry, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of chemistry with players like Strzok and Jones, and they're going to continue to strive for success, and I think that they'll be just fine.
All right, well, Morgan, thanks for stepping in for us tonight, giving us as much coverage as you can on that game. Like we said, Tri-Valley falls to New Albany 42-35. That is the end of their season. Thanks, Morgan. Now, it's now time on our show for top plays. So all you hot shots out there, give me your ears and your eyes for the next minute for an exclusive playoff edition of our Plays of the Week. We're going to start things out with Wahama, and Kane Roush goes up the middle, makes something out of nothing, just jukes to the outside. 24-yard gain here, more coming from Kane Roush here in a few, so stay tuned. And number 2, Magnolia's Tanner Hanna taking a page out of Pat Shermer's playbook. Just give the ball to the running back, let him do his best. Gage Deem, he'd love to help. 21-yard pickup here for the touchdown. They go on to win 34-7. At number 1, going back to you, Mr. Roush. Kyle Brackey said it earlier. This guy was doing every single move in the playbook. He got a spin, a juke, a spin, a juke, and then he's just going to get beast mode and throw a man to the ground with a stiff arm. 35-yard pickup, and they win this one 38-0. Hey, well, that's all the news stuff we have from Week 12. But before we say goodbye, here's what to expect from our 1-hour season finale next week. Believe it or not, football fans, we've already put 12 weeks of games in the books. But don't worry, we at Gridiron Glory are going out with style next week with our most action-packed show yet. For starters, we'll keep bringing you coverage from all the remaining playoff teams, as well as recap the year that was for each conference. We'll also relive all of our best moments from 2012 by bringing you countdowns on the best plays, games, and hits of the year. Not to mention, you fans out there have given us so much love throughout the year that we're going to return the favor by showing you our favorite moments of Fan of the Week. We'll see if Ryan Adams from Athens will retain the coveted Coach of the Year trophy, and we'll bring you live interviews from our top 5 players before revealing which one of them has been named the next Gridiron Glory Player of the Year. Hey, well, that does it for Week 12, everyone. Unfortunately for Trimble, Tri-Valley, and Williamstown, Wahama was our only team that survived the night, but we still have games from Gallia Academy and Athens on Saturday. So don't forget to be looking for those recaps on our website at woub.org/gridiron. As you heard, next week we are doing a complete recap of the season. We'll be bringing you our top plays of the year, games of the year, hits of the year, anything of the year, and our player of the year. So be sure to tune into that one. It's an hour-long special coming up next Friday at 11:30, and we're going to be seeing if Gallia Academy and Athens can keep moving on, and if Austin Jones, Joey Burrow, Wade Jarrell, Blake Adkins, or Connor Stan the Man Stanley will be named our next Player of the Year. So that's all the time we got for tonight. So until next time, I'm Josh Huntsberger, reminding you that there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.